Hi, this is Edward Troxel, and today we're going to start a series of videos that was all started based on this forum post. So here we have a post where they were wanting to have keyframes that bounced up and down like this as time went forward. And then here is the formula that was given to achieve this bounce. And so we wanted to see if we could take this information and apply it to something on the timeline in Vegas. So the first thing to do was basically to create a little proof of concept type thing. And so to do that, I was going to kind of make this a transition and let it bring in a video clip from off the screen, and it would bounce into place on the screen. So here was how I accomplished that part. The first thing that had to happen was converting that function to C#. So here we have the easeOutBounce function. We changed it to be a type float, and we are passing it a float. Then we had to change the constants so that they were floats, and to turn this number into a float, we just put the little f at the end. Everything that was just a number needed to be changed to a float. So that's a float, this is a float, this is a float. The rest of the function was exactly as it was given to me. So none of this down here was actually changed other than adding the f's to turn these numbers into floats so that the math would work correctly. So now let's look at the main routine that is actually going to call this easeOutBounce function. So here we have our main routine with our myVegas equals Vegas. The first thing I wanted to do is get the full width and full height of the Vegas project. In this one, we're going to use the full width. We're not going to use the full height, but we'll use that in the next one. And then for each track in myvegas.project.tracks, I'm going to check to see if this is a video track, because I'm trying to manipulate a video event. So if it's not a video track, I don't even need to look at it. If it is a video track, then for each track event in mytrack.events, I'm looking for a selected event, and this will technically work on all selected events, but in this case I'm only going to have one event selected. So if event.selected, then the first thing I'm going to do is turn it into a video event. So I've had my event, change it to a video event, and call it VEVNT. Then I need to get the list of keyframes. So my list of keyframes comes from vEvent.videomotion.keyframes, and I'm storing that into the vKeyframes variable. And then I'm calling a routine called remove old keyframes. Basically all that's doing is going through the list of keyframes backwards, and I passed it the full list of keyframes, and it's removing all except for the first one. So let's take a look at that routine. So here's the remove old keyframes routine. We are passing it the list of keyframes, which are video motion keyframes, and then I'm saying if my keyframes.count is greater than 1, if I have a bunch of keyframes, then for I equals the number of keyframes count minus 1, because remember it's 0 based, as long as I is greater than 0, and then we're going to subtract 1 each time. So then we remove the ith keyframe. Now I put is greater than 0 because I don't want to remove the 0 keyframe, because there needs to be at least one keyframe on there, so I just left the 0 keyframe. Now back to our main routine. Here we've removed the old keyframes, which we just looked at. Then I'm getting a video motion vortex variable, which I'm calling XYZ, and it's a new video motion vortex, which is the full width times minus 1. So I'm taking the full width times minus 1 because I'm going to move this right off the screen, and moving it right is in the negative direction. So then on this first video keyframe, I'm doing a move by this new video motion vortex. So this is the X amount to move, this is the Y amount to move. I'm not moving it up or down, I'm just moving it the full width times minus 1. Now I need to know how many keyframes I'm going to have. So I'm getting my frame length from the event length.frame count. So this will tell me how many frames are in the length of this event. And then I'm getting a base bounds variable, which is where is my bounds right now on this first keyframe. So I want to save my off the right edge position, and I'm saving that into base bounds. Now I need to go through all of my keyframes. So for, and this is a long variable, my frame equals 0, so starting with the first frame, while my frame is less than or equal to frame length, and then we increase by 1 each time. The first thing I need to do is get the value that I'm going to pass this new function. The values going into this new function, this easeOutBounce function that we looked at the very beginning, go from 0 to 1. So 0 will be the starting number, 1 will be the ending number, so every number in between has to be a fraction between 0 and 1. So I get my current frame, which the first time it's 0, divided by the frame length, which is my total number of frames. So if it was 100 frames long, then the first time I am passing it 0 because my frame is 0. When it is 1, I am passing it 1/100th or 0.01. And so forth until I get to the very end, in which case I will be passing it a 1. So then I'm going to get the ease value by passing it to the easeOutBounce, which is going to return a number between 0 and 1. Once again, I want a number between 0 and the full width of the screen. So I'm going to take this number and multiply that by full width. So this is going to be moving it left up to the full width, but most times it will be less than that. Then I create me a new video motion vortex using this new ease value and not moving it in the Y position. So this is how far we are moving it into the X, which is the number we got back times full width. If this is my first keyframe, then I'm just going to change the keyframe that is already there. So I'm going to change the bounds to my base bounds that I saved, and then I'm going to move it by the video motion vortex that I just created. If it is not the first keyframe, then I am going to create a new keyframe, NKF, as a new video motion keyframe, and the position for this will be timecode.fromFrames and the frame that I'm working on. So we're going to go forward this many frames. Then I need to add that keyframe to my list of keyframes, so my video keyframes.add, and we add that new keyframe. Then I'm going to set the initial bounds equal to our base bounds that we saved above, and then we are going to move it by this new move value that we created right here. So let's get an idea of how this works by running it in Vegas. So here I have an event on the timeline. You notice it just is there. And now I am going to go to select this event and go to run the script. And you'll see that if we go to the very beginning, it is now off the screen to the right. If I slowly move in, you'll see that it is coming in. And let's just play the timeline and see what it looks like. So it comes in, bounces off the edge, bounces off the edge, and bounces until it comes to a stop. So at the very end, it is all the way over to the left, and it bounced in. If I took some other video and placed it underneath it, let's just find something here. So we'll just expand this out a little bit to make it longer. So if we had a video that was playing here, and then this one would bounce in to start covering that up. It would bounce. Notice the back one's still back there. Bounce. And we could use that as a transition. So now we have a proof of concept that shows using that function to control coming in on a video event just by moving the pan crop. Let's take a quick look at what the pan crop actually looks like after running this function. So we open up pan crop, and you can see we have a bunch of keyframes here. Every frame has a keyframe on it, and you can see as the keyframes move, it is slowly coming in, moving to the right, and so it has automatically created every one of these keyframes in order to give us a smooth bouncing effect. So now that the proof of concept has been created, let's expand on that a little bit more in the next tutorial, and we're going to create a bouncing ball and see how that looks. And then once we get the bouncing ball, we will continue on and try to expand on this a little more in each of the following tutorials. Please sign up at www.JETDV.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.